The universe will keep throwing up challenges, similar situations. It might be similar relationships or business partners or romantic partners or whatever in your world and in your life until you learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn.
We guarantee the thing we're most fearful of in the world, which actually isn't rejection, it's loneliness or not finding love.
So I might not engage in the way that would show interest. And it is kind of maybe that, partly it's that fear of rejection.
Harry, good to see you, mate. It's been a couple of weeks. We've both been out traveling. How you doing? Where are you in the world?
Well, I'm still traveling. I'm in what is suddenly today a sunny Tallinn in Estonia. But I must say I'm feeling pretty tired after probably about 4 hours sleep last night. And I'll explain why I'm getting up as well in a moment when we go into more detail. But you've been traveling as well. You must be a bit jet lagged.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I went to New York, got back last week. I'd say it was the most consecutive days I've done drinking alcohol for some time. So that always has an impact. We walked about about 10 kilometers a day walking just around the streets and things like that. So you always come back a little bit fatigued, just a lack of sleep, alcohol consistently, you're eating out, but what an experience. Shame the final game wasn't better, but for those listening, I went out for the World Cup final in New York at the New Jersey Stadium. And it was very memorable. One of those things that lives in the memory bank. It's just a shame the football wasn't a little bit better than a 0-0 draw up until the end.
Yeah.
But what an experience. It was great.
I mean, well, the first night I got here, I watched the England game, which was like watching a basketball game almost.
It was, yeah.
I wonder if that's how they'll change football in the States to make it more interesting and just say, like, forget defense, let's just go full on attack. Because actually it does make it more exciting. But yeah, the Sunday night, they had a big watch party as well. And so the whole week started off like late nights because obviously they went extra time and we're 2 hours ahead here as well from the UK. So I think it finished up around 2 o'clock.
But you're in Estonia. Is that where you are? Again?
Yeah, so I'm at Mindvalley University, or they call it Mindvalley U thing now. And I'm in a gorgeous apartment, which I showed you the view earlier. So I'm looking out on the beach at the moment. I have set up a daily activity. So 8:30 every morning, except for weekends where it's 11:30. I've called it the Daily Dip. And you can set up tribe activities and I put it into all the WhatsApp groups. And it's 10 minutes of mobility, followed by 10 minutes of strength. And they've got like a bit of an outdoor gym, followed by a jump in the sea. And every day we've had people from the first time I've set. Today was probably the largest amount, which was around 8 people, but the least has been around 2. But yeah, we do that. And then a couple of people who are maybe more, I know a little bit better, they may come up into my apartment and have a shower and have a smoothie and stuff, but everyone else kind of goes back and then you're ready for the 10 o'clock sessions. And it's really good. The water has been very changeable. Like it was 16 degrees. And by the way, I was coming from Brighton where it was 22 degrees. It was 16 degrees the first few days, which was enough of a shock. And then suddenly, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday last week, it dropped to 9.9 on the watch. And then the next day, and then next day was 11. It still did like 3 or 4, 5 minutes in there. It's gone back up to 14 or 15 now, so it's not too bad. And the thing is, I don't know whether I'm regretting it or not, and we can talk about this in a bit more detail, but I wanted to come this year with a bit of a plan of sorts. Normally I come and I'm doing that social thing, like, this is my social bucket for the year. I thought, you know what, maybe let me play it a little different route and do it a little bit more work focused, but it's not really work focused. I'm not telling them about me or body, but I'm known because it's like the Daily Dip with Harry and I'm posting every day and everything. So I'm getting random people coming up to me and, they know my name and stuff. But it is quite exhausting because whatever time I'm going to bed, I'm having to be up at 8 to do the swim because that's what I said I would do. And so I haven't really been drinking, although I had some drinks on Friday night, which was a really fun night. And it was probably the first night I felt a little bit, I've arrived after just a week, because the other nights, I don't know, I was playing sensible like a lot of the time. And not that people drink much in Mindvalley. A lot of people are not drinkers and they party wild.
For those that aren't familiar, this will be our 3rd year of recording Mindvalley. So we started the show just before the first one, then we went again for the second one. So I think it's the 3rd time now that you've been in Mindvalley.
Might be the 4th, I don't know.
Might be the 4th. But for those that aren't familiar, I'll let you tell them about it. But I've always mocked you and had a bit of fun because it always sounds like it's a sex festival, right? It involves lots of sound baths where everyone's naked, everyone's experiencing each other's body. I think a lot of this goes on like that. I'm telling our listeners, I always have a little bit of fun with this. So Dip with Harry, listeners, could mean anything. Now, he hasn't disclosed yet whether this is a clothed dip or not. And quite frankly, it could be either. Let your imaginations run wild. Tell us a little about what the Mindvalley is all about.
So Mindvalley is an online learning platform, like maybe about 20 years old now. But they started doing events as well for their community. And one of the events they do each year is this thing called Mindvalley University, now rebranded to Mindvalley U. used to be 4 weeks long, then it got shrunk to 3. Now it's actually only 2 weeks the last couple of years. Hearing rumors, it might even go to 1, which the idea was like get a group of people together, you know, who can maybe work remotely, choose a new city each year for a month and like do that. And it's a family friendly place as well. So a lot of half the people that come are parents with their children. And so the children get to go into their own school, if you like, for the 2 weeks. And they'll learn, I don't even know what they're learning, but they'll learn things like communication skills or AI or entrepreneurship or whatever thing is, mindfulness or meditation or spirituality. They'll learn lots of different things depending on the age group. I actually don't really come much for the lectures. I've been to a few. I mean, there was one by some monk or something yesterday and a samurai guy today, which I didn't go to, and a drama or an actress was teaching about identity shifts and things like that. So there's lots of different things that go on. And there are also these things called tribe events, which are ancillary events that you or I or any participant set up. So there's a bunch going on tonight. I think right now, as I'm speaking to you, there's a bachata dance lesson that's happening. And then tonight there's like a Latin dance party. Last night was a white party that was organized. So there's lots of partying every night and there's big parties on Saturday night. So we had a massive party at this crazy museum, if you like. And it was Alice in Wonderland theme. So you just dressed in like steampunk kind of weird stuff, and everyone dresses up in this like show.
I am just having a bit of banter with you on it, but previous episodes will show that every time Harry goes away, there's some kind of love challenge or something goes on. There's a girl you've met 10 years before. There's a relation. There's always something that comes out of Mindvalley. It's like what happens at Mindvalley stays at Mindvalley.
The thing is, Vishen Lakhiani, who's the founder of Mindvalley, interesting character, he typically tried to describe, I'm not sure if it was A-Fest or Mindvalley U, as Burning Man meets TED Talks. And then I was chatting with some of the staff the other day in one of the feedback sessions to give them feedback on the experience and everything else. And I was saying, I'd probably say to my friends, it's Burning Man meets TED Talks meets Freshers Week at Uni meets Love Island. It's kind of like...
Yeah, that probably sounds fair based on what I've heard from you talking about it in the past. Yeah.
And the thing is, I was saying to my friend on Saturday night, whatever it was, Friday night, I was going, 15 minutes is a long time at Mindvalley, because I was having an interaction with someone who I thought I was getting on with, and then she went off with someone else. So I think actually, long story short, turned out to be her husband, so fair enough. But she was very flirty on the dance floor with everyone. So whatever their deal is, I don't know. But I was like saying to my friend, like, hey, tell her not to go, or something like that. I was like, because 15 minutes is a long time, like in Mindvalley. You might have a really good interaction with someone and feel like you're getting on, and then suddenly you miss a dinner or you miss a process or you miss something. They kind of give you a cold shoulder, or they're kind of interested in someone else. And this is why actually I'm staying an extra week, because those people that do remain, they tend to be a bit more present when you chat to them, because they're not always rushing off to go to a lunch or a dinner or, you know, some super secret insiders circle. I would say the experience, this might be my last one, I'm not sure, because the experience is changing over the years, and they've start segregate it a lot more, and they create like a VIP band and a first class band and a separate lounge for the first class people, and then separate parties. And they hit this, they'll not be happy with what I'm saying, but they keep talking about community, right? Which is all about common unity and being one. I'm like, well, why have we got like 6 different bands of wristband? And, you know, and that's only been...
Fair comment.
Yeah, and that's only been in the last 2 or 3 years. Before it was, you know, free for all. And now, you know, you pay an extra $1,000 or something and you get to sit in the front, not even the front row.
Reminds me of George Orwell, mate. You know, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Yeah.
Exactly. I was saying to them the other day, like, you talk about common unity, but some people are more common than others.
Yeah.
And so it's feeling like that. And then and actually on Friday, I kind of snuck into they had some sort of awards gala. And then I went to the awards gala for a bit, but it was a bit boring. And then they had the party afterwards. And I just walked in they just didn't stop me, but I was supposed to be VIP, but I did something sneaky, snuck in. But it was kind of good fun. But then after that, after about midnight, we went to the after party, where all the other people were. I joked with some of my friends who are VIP, because that's the other thing. Some of my friends are VIP, and then you're not going to the same events, right?
Sure.
You're sitting in the same places. And they were having so much fun. I said to them, like, yeah, this is like the lower decks of the Titanic. You know, in that Titanic scene where Rose gets taken down and suddenly it's all different. And it's like, because in the upper decks, everyone is so Instagram conscious, and they're like all about the photos and all about the, you know, look and whatever. And I just find it, whereas if you go to the lower decks, or the purple bands as I call them, then it's all kind of free for all sort of thing. So, but I sound like I'm bashing it, but the main reason I come here is because what I like about it, like here, for example, I'm 5 minutes away from the pub and I can meet a friend in 6 minutes. They have these scooters that you can just jump on and get into anywhere in like a few minutes. And then if you want to do something, like the other day we went and we hired a few saunas after Sunday daily dip. And so we went there, a bunch of other people were there that we know. So, or you walk around the town, like the other night I walked around the town, bump into people sitting, having dinner, chat with them. So I love that aspect of it. And I love that part more than the lectures, right? Yeah, you get some big name people.
You got to meet, I loved his book. I don't know him.
Yes.
Back to meet Simon Ong, who wrote the wonderful book Energize. I thought it was a really good book. Very, for those listening, very easy to read, digestible book that, okay, maybe doesn't go as deep as things can in the current world of things. But if you want to get, a little bit of foundation into some of the things we talk about around mindfulness and letting go and things like that, wellness principles, I think it's a really good starter book. And I think he writes it very well. He mirrors some of the things in your book. He obviously has his 4 buckets, which is slightly different to your 5. But yeah, it was good. And you got to meet him now. I enjoyed seeing the pictures of you and him together.
Yeah, so I saw him. He was doing a bit of a Q&A before his talk. I think it was the day before his talk. And a girl was doing the Q&A, Sabrina Stacker, who'd done quite an interesting talk about developing someone's whole online presence in about 20 minutes using AI, right? And she was, I think, one of the final 5 in The Apprentice in 2016, tennis coach or something. Anyway, so apparently they know each other really well. And so they were doing something. And I saw him, luckily I recognized him before his talk, because after talks, like everyone accosts people, right? So you want to grab them beforehand. So we had a nice chat and he was really, really friendly. He has agreed to come on the podcast.
That'd be cool.
I'm going to hold him to that. I've got his details anyway, so I'll give him a nudge when I get back to the UK. But he was only here for maybe 2 days. But he gave a really great talk. He brought his wife on stage at one point and his young daughter. And he's got a real sincerity about him. He's a local London lad as well. So hopefully, we chatted after his talk as well. And he said, yeah, let's meet up for a coffee and everything. And so that was great. So you meet people like that. There's a few other big names that have been here. Hal Elrod actually was speaking, but I didn't go to one that wrote Miracle Morning. So he's here. A bunch of interesting people. And you can sort of hang out with them a little bit. And they're kind of at the parties. They tend to walk in the hub quite a bit. But then now this year, there's a separate lounge for not just the speakers, but if you pay the ridiculous
amount, you get I get it.
First class, you get that. But then you're paying for access. But then there are some people here that they volunteer and you volunteer for 3 days and you get like a 2-week ticket or something. So a lot of people can do it on the cheap. They do shared accommodation, hostels, whatever. Or you can spend, 10 grand on a ticket and be in the front row and get invited to an exclusive dinner with founders. So there's different grades of it. What was interesting, like talking about this love triangles and everything, is that you meet lots of people and there's a lot of esoteric talks and, relationship talks and universe talks and all this. And one thing that was playing on my mind yesterday is this idea, and I'm not sure, if you resonate with it or not, but that the universe will keep throwing up challenges, similar situations, right? It might be similar relationships or business partners or romantic partners or whatever in your world and in your life until you learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn. Okay. And there are certain patterns that I recognize in my behavior when interacting with people and I think the universe is telling me a couple of things. It's 1, be bolder, 2, act quicker, and 3, just go for it a lot of the time and not to hesitate.
Well, very similar to my fear to bold process, right? So, you've got to just do, don't hesitate. Those 3 seconds, I call the courage window, right? Act.
Like I say, the biggest bit from your framework, that is the fear bit for me, I guess, like we've talked about before, is the imagination part, right? So the imagination part, right? So I don't want to give too much away necessarily, but so I met someone yesterday, had a nice interaction with them. We hung out after the event for a bit before I thought I was going to record the podcast with you. And then I thought, you know what? I mean, I'm always looking, I want to be in a relationship and sometimes I need to prioritize myself over other things. So I was like, you know what? I'll try and push it back an hour. I don't want to just have a 20-minute chat with this lady. I'll have, a bit longer. And we got on really well and we were kind of getting quite deep in things. So then I don't think knew anyone else there. She just only come that day. And I was like, and she was a bit nervous about going to the party because she's like, I'm not going to know anyone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see you there or something like that. And then when I did see her there, she was basically giving me the cold shoulder and I think she'd been bought a drink by some random guy who I don't think was part of the Mindvalley thing because he wasn't all dressed in white. And really just like, almost like a completely different person, right? And I was thinking, something similar happened last year where
I'm getting deja vu because you remember you telling the story last year.
Yeah, where I really engaged with this girl, and then someone else basically swooped in, and I was thinking that last night. I was like, the universe just keep saying the same thing over and over and over. It's like until you get it. And then I was in this state of a little bit of jealousy sort of thing. And then the imagination is like, well, I saw her, she was standing there chatting to him for ages outside, and then I didn't see him, and now they've gone. The whole thing's lost. And so I was like, oh, and I couldn't sleep last night. And then there were other people there that were clearly interested in me. And, then you have the paradox of choice as well, where you go, oh, you've got this and this and this.
But it's whether or not you're ready to receive it at that point because you're still stuck in the other piece as well.
Yeah. And then your energy goes off and everything else. And I was thinking the times when I had the best times at Mindvalley, which was probably 3 years ago, is where I was very much in the moment. And I was connecting with each person in that moment at, 5:30 on a Tuesday, and not thinking about 6:30 on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. And not also thinking about other people's feelings, because I was thinking, if that person sees me there, maybe they're going to be offended or...
I'll challenge slightly, because I know I was here for you when you had that 3 years ago. I do think there's a little bit of selective memory going on. We go so far back, remember the good bits, but I think you've had questions and, we remember it differently. You can always do things better. That 2-3 years has passed now. Last year's still quite relevant and ready and vivid in your mind. 3 years ago may not be. So we assume that 3 years ago we were free, and we remember all the selective memory will give us the good bits bad, not the any sort of female issues that may have come up or relationship issues. If I recall, when we recorded the episode, mate, there were a couple of things that happened that year as well. You think back in those ones?
Well, no, 2 years definitely. 3 years, I just had a very crazy week.
What I will say in terms of your universe piece, I don't disagree, by the way. So that's fine, the idea of it. I don't think they go away, though. I just think they're always there. These things keep getting thrown up. The obstacle is the way, is obviously the stoic element. But I think we learn to navigate it better, or we no longer need to navigate it because our own situation changes. But these things, I think, are there to challenge us all the time. We learn, we get better. If we don't learn, you're still going to get that same challenge over and over again.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think that let's say that the lesson is be bold, act now, right? And act without outcome expectation. If I change my mindset and truly embody that, then that lesson's not going to show up, because the situation won't develop in that way. Because
no, but you could still get rejected in theory.
Oh, yeah, but it's not. And maybe that's also part of the lesson. It's like I say, no, never try, never know. In fact, something I was talking about with this girl yesterday, because originally I was thinking, oh, should I speak to her or not speak to her, right? And or should I invite her back to the apartment or not, right? And what I like, and we talked about it, is that just because you invite someone to the apartment, especially at Mindvalley, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? And so it's a bit of a safer environment. And I've got this lovely apartment. I want people to enjoy the view. So I've had people over.
I think some of it, I call it the fear paradox, the idea that when we're fearful of, sometimes we guarantee the thing we're fearful of if we don't act upon it. So for example, if we've had a good relationship, we've been rejected in that relationship, we've been dumped, we've been cheated on, whatever, right? We don't put ourselves out there the second time because we're fearful about returning, but we're not putting ourselves out there a second time. We guarantee the thing we're most fearful of in the world, which actually isn't rejection, it's loneliness or not finding love. So it's having that gap of going, well, if I don't reach myself out and make that move and don't live in the now and go, I'm guaranteeing the thing that actually I'm more scared of, which isn't the judgment of the rejection, it's the loneliness and the loveless life I'm going to continue on if I don't take that action. But of course, the easy action in the moment is, I'm not going to do it, because we have a hope that actually I'll wait for the person to come to me and I'll find it a different way. You are living yourself up to the gods and the universe.
I mean, you're spot on. And I want to just kind of jump onto that point, because even like this morning, I was chatting to my mate after our swim. He came up here for the smoothie and whatnot. And I was saying how, like, paradoxically, when I like a girl as well, sometimes I spend less time with them. Like on the dance floor, I might not, engage in the way that would show interest. And it is kind of maybe that partly it's that fear of rejection, partly in other circumstances is other things going on. But you're right, because then I don't then do things, and then you get the thing that you're more afraid of, which is like being alone or whatever. And I need to remind myself of this message, but also that a lot of that comes from, for me, you need that support around you to kind of like either,
of course you do,
wingman you, as it were, or just give you that boost to say,
I think I need to come out, do one more year at Mindvalley. If it's only a week, I can probably come out, mate. I can't come out for a month. We'll go out together. I'll be your wingman.
Some people just come out for a week, right?
I'll be your wingman. I'd love that.
And that'll be Italy, I think, next year is the rumor. So,
Well, I'll tell you some news. This will sound inconsiderate, so apologies, listeners, when I say this. I can't really do the show without saying it. And we want to kind of on the subject of love. You know Lucy, my wife, very well. Today's our 19th year wedding anniversary.
wow, congratulations to both of you.
So I can come out as a wingman, fully secure in what's going on. I'll be 20 years next year. So maybe I won't get away with getting out there next year if it's the same day because it's our 20-year anniversary. But
they might change it. But I mean, both of you come out. I mean, you can still wing me even with company. Like at the moment, my wingman is my friend Sonia. So Sonia and Vivek, they're both dentists from South Carolina, actually. She's very, very successful online as well. And she and I have been like friends for years here. And so I love coming back to that side of thing. And even though I might not see that person for like a year, we kind of fall into things. And also each year I develop a relationship with someone that maybe I hadn't before. Like, so my friend Tice, I've known for 3 or 4 of these, but every year we kind of spend a bit more time together. And this year's probably the most intense year because of the location and I'm seeing him every morning for the swims and everything else.
I'll tell you something that's been interesting for me. I don't know if for our listeners, it's one of my favorite words. I may have mentioned it on the show before. It's the word confabulation. You familiar with it?
Yeah, you mentioned it before.
It's believing the stories we tell ourselves, right? And it's interesting. So I went to the World Cup final, very, very lucky that a friend of mine, I think I talked on the show, he'd had a stroke and I was there to identify it and he recovered. And he's now doing a bit of a bucket list thing. And one of the bucket lists was to go out to the World Cup final. He's been to other, he was at the Rugby World Cup final in 2004 and he's done other things before. So he's in a position where he's able to do that. And he very kindly invited me to go. Now, he's been my business partner for best part of 20 years, be 20 years in 2028. He's much older. He's very successful, wealthy, brilliant guy. He's been my support. All the things I've needed growing up and becoming an entrepreneur that I've become now was very much thanks to his mentorship and support. We've never been away together. He's almost 70. Not that age really matters, but we're in different walks of life, different financial walks of life. He's got loads of gravitas, very successful entrepreneur in his own right. And it's like, this is going to be interesting. We've known each other for so long, but I've never gone away for the best part of a week and lived in someone's company like that who I don't know so well. And I don't usually get anxious, but actually I was a little bit uncertain. I was a little bit anxious about the trip. There was no reason to be really because I know him. But there's a thing of, when you're living in each other's space and pocket that much, am I going to irritate him? I've got, my ADHD brain's going to want to do certain things and I'm a massive fan of football. I'm not definitely going to want to queue and get some of the memorabilia. He may not, all those kind of things. Completely unfounded. It was absolutely brilliant. He was incredibly patient with me, which I think you need to be sometimes. He opened up the experiences. And it was interesting because all the confabulation of the stories I told myself, the things that I thought would piss him off, didn't seem to, certainly on the surface, irritate him at all. And we just got on like a house on fire. We had an absolutely brilliant time. And it's funny because he won't know I was anxious. And I almost feel now fearful that he might ever know, even though I'm saying it publicly now, but I felt that way because there's no foundation for it really. It's just that, unnervingness of knowing you well, but not properly. And actually it was an opportunity to get to know each other on a slightly deeper level. And we got on like a house on fire. Absolutely brilliant. Had some brilliant food, brilliant experiences, great World Cup final. We celebrated, we drank, we watched the England-France game in a sports bar together on the high stools. Like, I wanted to do that. Didn't know he would want to. He was like, yeah, let's jump on. We had cocktails, I like a Bloody Mary or whatever. He's nearly 70. He joined me for Bloody Mary. Just little things. And it made me wonder halfway through. I spoke to Lucy about this because I wonder if he had the same anxieties as I did. Him going away with a almost 44, 45-year-old guy, business partner, a bit younger. I don't know if he did or not. Maybe he doesn't think that way, but it's quite possible we both went with the same anxieties and uncertainties, but it just worked. And we had a really, really good time. So there's a lesson for me in that, for sure.
I mean, it's possible that he did because one thing was interesting when you go to events where there's 300-400 people in the audience and a speaker might ask a question and for a raise of hands and then you just see how many other people obviously it can relate to that particular thing. And I think, this idea of creating the stories, I'm always creating stories in these events where there's, especially if I'm under the influence of anything, but I wasn't, basically drinking water, but I was still creating stories about this person or that person and a few other people, right? And like I said, the universe, it's interesting because this whole thing is about mindful paths, right? Because it's hard to recognize those lessons that the universe is putting out to you. And also to identify, you might recognize a certain pattern, but what is the lesson within that pattern that it's trying to show you? Because otherwise it will show up over and over again. Today or last night and this whole thing, it's the same thing because I look back over, decades. It's the same. I'm getting similar lessons for decades and decades. I'm like, when am I going to learn what I need to learn. And also when we've talked about it before with the 15 seconds of bravery, like the Port Zoo thing, and that it was
20 seconds of courage. Yeah.
20 seconds of courage or something like that. Yeah. Matt Damon movie. And how when I did that at a conference in 2011, that led to me, chatting to someone who eventually became my partner for 4 years and so on. And generally speaking, when I put myself out there and do something, it works, right? Not it works, but even if I don't get like the result, I feel satisfied because
that's a little bit like, well, not quite the secret, the manifestation, but it's a little bit the idea of, well, you get back what you give. Sometimes if you give a little, you lie on the sofa and you watch TV, you don't go off the couch, don't go running, don't do these things. You sometimes get back what you give into the world. And if you put more into the world, it's amazing the opportunities to come back your way.
Well, I mean, you're a prime example of this, right? You're always putting yourself out there on LinkedIn. You've been doing 2 other podcasts consistently for 8-9 years. You go to all these events, and that's why you're so well known in your niche and why you're very successful. Because it's not luck, it's right. Luck is where opportunity meets preparation, and you definitely do the preparation, and you create as many opportunities as you can. And one of the things I come back to Mindvalley for again is to create a bit of a catalyst in me to think about, okay, when I get back to Brighton, I need to go out, whether it's go to Toastmasters, join a dance club, join the gym. I need to put myself into a situation because I thrive off of other people, and it's one of the things that gives me energy. It's part of the beat model. The connection piece gives me energy. And so that's another reason why I love coming here. And I've got to the point a little bit as well today where I'm releasing expectation, because there is also some expectation where I'm thinking, and I've known this since 2019 or 2018 when I came to my first events, where I can fall for someone and then I feel like there's a vibe. And then the next day they're interested in someone else, or I've gone too hard or too fast or whatever in my affection or whatever. And it becomes really emotionally a roller coaster. And the times that it's been best is when I've kind of been a bit more stoic with it, released any expectation, just have fun. I'm on the dance floor, I'm doing this, whatever. And whatever happens to be, happens to be. But at the same time, you also have to make that happen to be, which is where balance is.
You do. I think also when it comes to mindfulness, which is what the show's about, like ultimately a lot of the techniques and strategies and things we talk about, people we talk about, books we talk about, they center around the central theme of awareness. And it sounds like we've gained a lot of awareness from this trip. But it was interesting, you said, we won't come back next year, maybe you will. I was thinking about going, the World Cup final, like for me this time, absolutely brilliant, loads of trepidation, didn't know what to expect. It was all anticipatory. And I was thinking to myself, if I was just like a Tottenham season ticket holder or taking Leo to his first game, you can imagine all the excitement. When you've gone 20 times over a season, you realize that often Tottenham will let you down. There'll be wins in the way, there'll be good ones. By the 20th time, it doesn't feel the same. You can still learn lessons. You go, we're going to be Spursy. The whole thing shifts. I do think there's not event fatigue, but what's really nice listening to you at the moment is whether you go next year or not, is probably of all the times I've heard you go, you seem to have loads of awareness now. Like it's been really reflective. And maybe you needed the 3 sessions before to get there. We've gone, actually, the universe is showing me the same things again. Yeah, I do need to do these things. I am going to go back and take some actions. It maybe just you don't need it as much next year because you've got all the awareness from this event. And it's, it's probably more maturity there as well. The event, know how it works out, where it stands, you're going, no, I get this now. Like I'm at that place of understanding.
Yeah. And I think also for next year, the thing that might be the challenge is that with Tallinn, I kind of know an apartment to choose or an apartment to choose. And I know that I'm going to get that freshers week kind of feel. Amsterdam was different because it's such a big city and the spaces were so sparsely, in different areas. And it didn't feel as community based. So I don't know where they're going to do it. Sometimes you go to Italy and if it's a small town, then the food will not work for me or whatever it might be. So, and also with a week, it takes me a week or so to get into it. So I'm feeling like I'm getting into the flow a little bit more today. And that's now we've only got like 4 days left. So I like it when it was 3 or 4 weeks. I never went for 4 weeks, but the longest I did was 3 weeks because you have that first week, it takes me to get into it. And then you have 2 weeks where you can really, you feel really connected to the event and the vibe. Yeah, so speaking of manifestation, there's loads of manifestation here, which I don't go to. I don't really resonate with the person that teaches it generally, but that's actually been their most popular online stuff. They sell a lot of now what they call mastery programs where you have cohorts and different teachers like Paul McKenna might teach manifesting as well with Raven Hillier.
I mean, you and I have talked a lot about The Secret. I know it probably goes on a lot further and it's evolved, I'm sure, the laws of attraction, but you still got to have the action in there. still comes down to the action piece. I still think that's the bit I miss. And when I look at I'm not doing a fair audit on the talks in Mindvalley, I've not been, but when I look at the memes or the shorter messages on Instagram and stuff, they always seem to miss out that central point. To manifest much of your life, you've got to take action now. You've got to have a do. You've got to have a plan and a process.
These sessions are more on the energetic level, so it's a bit. But also, I believe that energy needs to change as well, because we are vibrational beings, right? As I always say, right? If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, right? And Nikola Tesla, right? Understand frequency, vibration.
But if you fake the energy to manifest it, people will spot a fake as well.
You need to be at the right resonant frequency.
It has to come from in here, not from.
But then you do have to take the action. And I feel like, there's bits of that are probably missing in my life at the moment, where it's the frequency part and the action part, and then both need to kind of be at.
It's the buzzword of now, the manifestation piece. I'll tell you what I liked, and it made me laugh. I watched it on YouTube, not YouTube, on Instagram. It was only a short clip. It might resonate, may not, but I just thought it was quite funny. I won't get it exactly right, but the guy, he's quite a large guy, and he starts running, all right? And he says, I started running for my mental health. It just reminded me that I need to work on my physical health. I just thought it was a really simple thing. Like, he wasn't running to get fit. That wasn't his plan. He just wanted to get out of the house more, that I'll start the 5K thing. He literally runs 3 steps. There's, doing this to help my mental health, realize I first need to work on my physical health. But I thought it was a really quite a clever post, to be fair. They do work together. They're in tandem, and it's
actually interesting you talk about that, because the monk guy, who said he's not a monk as well, and I think I'd have to find it, but he had a TED talk that's done like millions of views. Shen someone or other, you probably recognize him. Really cool guy, like about your age, maybe a bit less. I think he's maybe 43, and he was talking a lot about how he was searching for whatever the truth is he needed to find, but he first knew but he was banging on a lot about the physical form as well, because ultimately this is the instrument by which we tune into the universe and tune into whatever it is that you need to. And so he was big on the diet, the sleep, the exercise, all of that, because you have to have that tuned in order to fully vibrate and resonate at the frequency to bring things in, as it were.
Remind me, I've got something to bring up in a minute, but I don't want to get you off trend. So keep going. And
Yeah, no, that was it. It's just and this is why I talk about things all the time in beat models. People have asked me with book Super Vitality and the beat model, they asked me where does spirituality fit into that model. Maybe you asked me actually at what point as well. And the way I describe it is I don't explicitly call out spirituality in there. It touches every single part of the B, E, A, and T, because from day one, I introduced like a hidden S within my symbol, like the blue yin yang creates like an S. And that, not only stands for super vitality, but it stands for spirituality. And that being that your spiritual practices come from all 4 of those. And actually, without even needing to mention spiritual awareness, process, whatever, if you do the things in there, right, specifically things like, your meditations, you're getting into nature, you're grounding, you're all of this, you're going to be quote unquote more spiritual, whatever that means to you. So it doesn't even need to be called out explicitly, because by tuning your environment, the body, the mindset, the values,
I think you just become more open-minded.
You're going to stop being
a lot of us, in the way that the world is run now, we end up quite closed-minded. We're in lots of mini echo chambers. We often don't look beyond the horizon or the walls that we surround ourselves with, whether that's the community, the friends. That's why you and I are so good to chat, because we are a completely different group of friends. We live in different parts of the world. We go to different events, but we connect. And every time we chat, we learn something new, or we're expanding things a little bit. But often we don't do those things. Humans are routine animals as well. We like routine. So the idea of COVID just threw that all out. But it's amazing how quickly, even with people suddenly can work from home when they can't, and suddenly realize people need routine just to be able to function. And often I think that means that it's, we fall into patterns of play that then we don't, it becomes very comfortable. We don't like to seek the uncomfortable in order to broaden those horizons further. But your book and your method and your methodology and the things that we talk about are all things that allow us to, I hope, to try and help people become more open-minded, to become more aware and to challenge our thinking. And you can change your identity. People say you can't. You can. What I believe now doesn't mean I have the same beliefs in a year. They can change at any point. I'll learn, and with education, with awareness, my beliefs can change. It's, as you said, it's a lie surrounded by bullshit, right? But yes.
Yeah, one of the things I definitely talk about in my first book, The Thought Gym, it might be in Super Vitality, I don't remember, but is about this idea of routines, but we get stuck into the routine. So my challenge always to people is to start small rather than big when it comes to changing your routine. So for example, putting your trouser leg on the other way around first.
Take a different route to work.
Yeah, taking a different route to work, because you might bump into, and even maybe not using your phone when you're walking, because looking up, you might miss that person. There's that video that I sometimes play in my conferences, in my workshops, or I used to, I haven't done for a while, but it's an old one where it's called Just Look Up, that poem. I think I may have shared it with you, where the guy's looking for directions, but he's using his phone in the first one. But he details a whole life where he's asked for directions, and they got married and they had kids and grandkids and all this, but that never happened because he was on his phone using that instead of asking someone. And I thought about that a few times here, because a lot of people are on their phones when they come out of the sessions. You're trying to look at the agenda, you're trying to do whatever, and you might miss that person that you're supposed to interact with. So I'm doing my best to not do that so much. But
an interesting point, and we've done a whole episode on this, which I would be interested to see obviously it's not good news, but as an individual who is living by such routine in order to biohack his way to longevity, and that's Brian Johnson, we talked about on the show, but he's been diagnosed with autoimmune gastritis, right? It's an incurable chronic condition. And you think, well, he's dedicated so much life and revenue and money, right to the point where he only exposes himself to so much sunlight a day. He doesn't go to certain places, lives within his four walls, and yes, takes all these pills and does all these things that may give him the metabolic age of someone who's younger. But for me and for many people, it's not living. And then you realize that we can do all these things, but we're not infallible. Life can strike us in different ways. And, from my background as others, any moment. And you think, that's a good example, I think, of something where you can't always hack life. You just got to go with the flow. And
this is what I want to say. And this is part of what the monk was saying, because he was saying that, we come from nothing, we return to nothing, right? So how can we find meaning in the circle of life? Because it doesn't really matter when we start at the same place and end at the same place. And I think for me, and we were having a big discussion about lunch about this, because, it was an interesting topic. And I think for me, yes, we talk about, okay, he's doing all these things. My friends say the same thing to me. Oh, you're not drinking and you're not doing this. Your life is meant for enjoying. And I always say pretty much the same thing, right? I'm doing it with awareness. So is the juice worth the squeeze, right? That's the basic bottom line. On Saturday, I got up, I did the swim, I had people around, and I was hanging afterwards. I was like, I had to effectively kick them out. They were all going to a spa. And I was like, went back to bed, 1:30 in the afternoon, vomited, right? Which I haven't done from alcohol years. I've done at least 250 times in my life. My body has told me since I was 12 years old not to drink. Okay. Now I know that sounds crazy for listeners saying, what, 12 years old, sick from alcohol? Yeah, that's...
No, we've already covered this in an episode as well, didn't we? A little while back.
Yeah, I think we've probably covered this, but I was in bed on and off from 1:30 till 8 o'clock. I didn't have any tablets on me or anything like that. So I had this headache, and then I got better and I went to the party till 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, but just on water that night, because I thought, actually, I don't want my Sunday to be like my Saturday where I'm missing out on all the things. Now, was it worth it for the Friday night? Yeah, I think it was, right? But that's always my question is the juice worth the squeeze? And also, do you enjoy the process itself? Because for people, they look at my life and like you're looking at Brian Johnson's as him sacrificing. He might not see it that way. I don't even see what I do as a sacrifice, right? Because we all have our different lines that we're willing to go up to. And so
I think you're right.
You've got to enjoy the process. Yeah. You've got to recognize that actually I'm not doing what I'm doing just to live to 180 or 200 years old. I'm doing to live 100% now, right? In terms of my energy and my vitality, my focus, my productivity, whatever it might be. And it's not that I'm doing this now to get a benefit in 50 years time. I'm doing this now to get a benefit now.
There's an interesting one, I think. Maybe I'm over-egging how I view Mindvalley, but the fact that anyone's saying, have a drink, have a good time, because I'm someone who does drink a fair bit, right?
No, they don't say that to me, sorry. I mean, my friends back home.
Okay. There's no idea they're even drinking, because a lot of the benefits, not the only one. My wife, Lucy, loves a glass of wine because she loves a glass of wine, right? But for a lot of people at parties and when we're going out for an evening, it's to loosen out those social inhibitions. And you'd hope at a place like that, where there is so much awareness and so much going on around looking after the soul and replenishing the soul and not being worried about judgment and being free, that a lot of people wouldn't need that in quite the same way, right?
They don't. Most people don't drink. Like, you go to the Mindvalley parties, like last night, it was a bit annoying last night because they didn't have like a water jug fountain thing for people. Like the first party on the last Monday, they did. And I was thinking, they've gone to this club and they don't say what kind of we're a Mindvalley crew where probably 80% of the people are not going to drink.
I think it would be interesting. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, and I'm someone who does drink. But when next time you're out in London, or wherever it is, and those friends say, go and have a drink, you do that. Rather than say, I don't need to because these are my choices, I wonder how it would feel for them to reflect it back and go, you know what? I don't need to drink to dance. I don't need to drink to have a good time. I don't need to drink to loosen my social inhibitions because I'm at peace with myself and I'm quite happy to be judged.
I wouldn't do that. I literally was having a conversation with this very cute girl today, actually, I have to say. And this is what was quite funny about the universe, right? Because the universe gives again. And it's given me another opportunity now to learn the lesson. I don't know whether I'll learn it eventually. But anyway, I was talking about, what did you say just now a second? Because
I was talking about reflecting back to people about social inhibition. You know.
Oh yeah, that's it. I was talking about how now I don't like preach things that I know, like to people unsolicited. Like probably back in 2010, 2011, 2012, I was like, oh, you know, you can do this and do this. And so if I was to go to my friends, if they were saying, do you want to drink? Firstly, I've barely drunk anyway the last 15 years. But if it's someone new, I'm not going to say any of that, because then that's kind of preaching back to them. I drink when I want to, I just don't want to. And that's normally my answer, which is the correct answer, because I do drink and I drink when I want to, but it's just very rare that I want to. And for me, the drink is a bit more about the loosening up, because my mind is in its head a lot. My thoughts are often there. However, like I said, as I warm up things, like when I'm a week into an event or when I'm into a flow, and also I guess it helps to be a bit sleep deprived, my thinking brain goes a little bit less there. And so I don't need, when I think about last year's experiences, I drank 2 nights, but the nights where I had great fun were not drinking, same previous years.
I definitely recall. I can tell you, after 5 days of solid drinking in New York, I came back jaded. Like the last day, we were walking around New York and we were like, yeah, we can feel we've been drinking for 5 days. It impacts your sleep, it impacts your energy, it impacts everything. And it impacts your diet. You end up eating worse foods.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I wouldn't do that casual drinking. I think like maybe if I wanted to have a drink just to like loosen, I thought about this last night. I thought, maybe I should just have a drink just to loosen my mind about this story thing that I'm creating in my head about this other girl and all the other things. And then I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do that, because I, wanted to sleep, but I got back and I couldn't sleep for hours because I was whirling around all these thoughts in my head. So I've had like 3 hours sleep, I think, tonight. I've not been checking my Oura ring, by the way, for the whole time.
Just try and change your thinking to good stories rather than bad. Now, what happens if it goes well?
Yeah, like the universe is conspiring for me and all of this. And I know all this stuff, and it's all about reminding yourself about these things.
It is, yeah, of course it is.
Believing that, like, even like, for example, so yesterday at the bar beforehand, this girl walked in who didn't know was going to be here, but someone I had a relationship with of sorts for a couple of months, about 3 years ago, sort of from the Mindvalley lot, but it was after a Mindvalley event. So it was while I was in London. And I don't know, she still didn't seem like, I hugged her and stuff. She didn't seem very happy and engaged, even though I saw her 2 years ago at this event and I thought we'd buried the hatchet, as it were. And nothing happened. We were only seeing each other for like a month or so, and it kind of drifted. It's probably ghosted each other a little on the messages and didn't really have a proper end. But anyway, she walked in with a friend of hers who I'll say is very cute as well. And we were chatting as well. And I exchanged numbers with her because she does something very similar. I think she billed herself as something different, like a preventative medicine coach, consultant or something, but effectively doing similar things to what I'm doing, maybe incorporates a few more testing. So also based in London, I thought, okay, good to connect. And also I've got a couple of WhatsApp groups I set up here, the morning exercise group, but also a lunch group so that I can meet people to go to lunch with that I want to go to places like plant-based and all that, or biohacking. And so we exchanged details. But by the time she left with the ex, as it were, and I got to the other venue, and I didn't go with them, but I got it in my paranoid head, because then she was like a little bit blanking me, even though she'd been like really into the conversation before. I was thinking, I don't know if this other girl spoke to her in that period of time and said, oh, I don't know what she said about me, or whether, oh, that's the guy I was with or whatever. But either way, it's like suddenly my paranoia head.
I get it.
And I was like, hang on a sec, she's now not engaging with me. I've literally done nothing wrong since then. So yeah, like the stories, basically, the beliefs, the BS that we put ourselves in. I have no idea whether any of this stuff is true.
I mean, easy said and done. You know all this stuff, but as a friend, I'll say it anyway, even though you know it. There's a great saying, which I say a lot anyway, which we often teach the things we most need to learn. And you and I will give each other guidance, even though intuitively we know the answers. Well, we don't know between now and then. I don't know who this girl is, but it sounds like she's cute when you're interested. Like between the time you saw each other, she could have a world of things could have happened. She could have had a bad phone call, whatever. But actually the story then in my head, if I was in your shoes and try to shift it to something positive, is like, look, she seems a bit off at the minute. Maybe something negative's happened here that I can help her with. I just want to go and see if she's okay. So, hey, we had a really good chat this morning or earlier. I thought we were really vibing. It was all good. You seem a little bit down. Your aura at the moment is a bit low. Is there anything that I can help? Has anything happened? You've had a bad call. Do you want to go and grab a coffee or whatever? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm thinking out the top of it. Bear in mind, I haven't chat up a girl for 20 years or 19 years. I'm now married. However, the story you could tell yourself is maybe she is a little bit low, but maybe it's not got absolutely nothing to do with you. And there's an opportunity there to go, you know what? Let's go and see if she's okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, that environment wasn't the space for that because it was all like heavy music, dancing, whatever.
But even if you don't go over, you can still rationalize it in your head of she may have had a difficult call.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there could be any number of reasons for all of this stuff. And I reflect back on my behavior here. And sometimes when you're engaging with someone and then like someone new, like I was chatting with these two Bulgarian girls who just arrived, and I was kind of focused on that conversation. And so I actually didn't have my glasses on, so I wouldn't have been able to notice other people. But sometimes you don't want to then engage with someone else that you know, right? You want to just focus on the conversation you're having. And it's very tricky at Mindvalley because there's always going to be someone that you know to interrupt a conversation or to, if you open the energy for that, then cool conversation you're having will disappear.
Just be you, do what's right for you in the morning, and they'll come. The girl will love will come to you.
You've got to do yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to say if you manifest it, right? Because that'd be wrong. But if you're just true to you, you'll find them.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was talking about with my friend before. Is like he was saying that things work best for him when. I mean, he's having an interesting time because I think he got together with someone like at the beginning of middle of last week. He went AWOL for a day or so. Very kind of cute little Mexican girl, but then his ex-girlfriend works for Mindvalley and they were together for a few years. They broke up maybe a couple of years ago, but now I think that's kind of been rekindled a bit and he's more keen on her anyway now. I think he's matured and he's ready for
gone full circle. But back to the sex festival.
Well, I mean, look,
at the end
of the day, life is about relationships, and a lot of the people that come here, I mean, I was in a session earlier about overcoming heartbreak. Honestly, I was kind of falling asleep at it and it wasn't very busy. It was in the big arena and hardly anyone was there. So actually they encouraged us to get to the front there, which I was happy with because I did meet the other girl in the front row. But actually what's quite interesting thinking about it is anyone attractive that I've spoken to new and in previous years, I'm always like, oh, how did you come to hear about Mindvalley? How come you're here? They're almost 90% of them, if not 100%, give me the same answer, which is, oh, I know Vishen. Oh, Vishen invited me. And even the girls I was chatting to today, they've never even met him, but except for some Instagram message. So he's very good with marketing because he'll basically invite whoever he knows or whatever to come, give them VIP because they get like free VIP or special access, because then he knows that then other people are going to pay to play it to her.
Which does lead me, I'm conscious of time here as well for the listener, but let's go full circle because you did, if I'm allowed to talk about it, if you're allowed to, I was going to edit it out. You sent me quite a cute photo of you and a girl. She was very cute. Who's that?
That was the one ignored me yesterday at the party.
Ah,
so
she was cute.
She was very cute. Thing is, we really vibed. Like, well, she came here actually and we hung out for an hour or so, which is why I couldn't do the call. And so that's why I'm quite an emotional, sensitive guy and I take things quite personally as well. So I'm like, how can we at 6 o'clock be vibing so well, right? Just conversation, nothing physical or anything like that, just conversation. And then 3 hours later, suddenly, it's not even like, hey, nice to see you again. Like, I was like, it's just like a real cold shoulder as if I, murdered her cat or something. And then I didn't know whether she was playing a game as well because I saw her as she was looking at me to see if I was looking at her with a guy, basically flirting with the guy. And I was thinking, I thought we'd have conversations about that earlier. I was like, I'm too old for games, like, and all this sort of stuff. And so I'm like, it's just a strange thing. So yeah, she was very cute. I could send you dozens of cute girl photos because a lot of them are cute, right? But most of those people I'll send you are the ones that got, and she was also one that's been invited by Vishen. So anyone hot gets invited by Vishen, and then they tend to kind of go to separate dinner party things. So I fully expect, although you might berate me now for saying this, but like, because the girls I met today are also Vishen kind of contacts that I may not see them again or they may drift, so, and that's fine because I'm releasing expectation of anything. And for me, it's like, okay, let me just engage have fun, get to be social with people again, try and find a bit of a flow. And I'm not bothered. Like,
And just stop believing the stories that you're telling yourself, or just keep that imagination in check.
I think I got to keep the imagination in check. And I'm not 100% sure that I've mastered that when I'm completely sober, if I'm honest. Like when I had some gin and tonics every night, and I just noticed I was way more playful and joyful and not thinking. But I don't know that I can handle the other things, so, like the hangover. So I need to kind of try and balance that a little bit with not thinking so much whilst still having all my thinking capacities, which is the hard thing.
Well, I hope you enjoy the last few days of your conference, a few more days. I'm going to cut it here because I've got my 19th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, no worries.
We're going out
head to
bottle of
the
wine at a restaurant down the road, which I'm looking forward to. I don't know where 19 years has gone, mate, because I knew you pretty much for over half of that. So time has flown, but here we are. I'm very happy to have got here. I'm looking forward to 20 years next year.
Congratulations to you both.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good milestone, I think.
My best to Lucy as well, of course. I don't think I've seen her since 2018.
We're going on the electric bike so we can have a drink or two, down the cycle path to a pub down in Exton, and then we'll tootle on back along the cycle path on our electric bikes to get home. Yeah, it should be a fun evening.
Awesome. Well, have fun. I may be going to a Latin party night, which is pushing myself out of my comfort zone because I don't know how to dance.
Do it.
So, yeah, we should go. And then maybe even join the beach there. It looks very nice down on the beach. All right.
Good, man. Enjoy. Good to catch up, mate. Enjoy the rest of your trip. I look forward to the stories and how they play out over the next few days.
Well, I'll still be here next week if we record next Monday because I'm taking another week here. So it'll be a bit more chill.
Keep sending those pictures. They're good to see your story in pictures. It's nice.
I'll share some, yeah.
Only the ones that aren't X-rated.
There's none X-rated, my friend. All right.
All right, man. All the best. Cheers, buddy.
Take it. Bye.